The story begins in a deserted market where we see a family silently gathering essential items. They were so scared that they couldn't even speak to each other, simply communicating through gestures. Something was compelling them to remain so silent. The leader of this family is Lee and his wife, Evelyn. They have their eldest daughter, Reagan, who has been deaf since childhood, and two sons, Marcus and Bo. Bo is younger, so he doesn't understand much. He spots a toy rocket in an upstairs cupboard. As soon as he sees the rocket, he jumps up and takes it. As he tries to pick it up, the rocket slips from his hand and falls to the ground. Everyone gasps in their throats. But just in time, Reagan quickly catches the toy rocket and saves everyone. Lee signals to everyone that it's getting dark. We need to get home as soon as possible, or we could be in danger. Then their 4-year-old son brought back the same toy rocket. Everyone was terrified because it was battery operated. It could make a noise as soon as it was turned on. Lee took the rocket from his son's hand, removed its battery, and placed it on the table. Then they all started to leave for home, but he repeatedly insisting on taking the rocket along. So Reagan secretly hands him the batteryless rocket, and she leaves the store. But then the boy takes the rocket's batteries. Then, all 4 of them start walking home in a line. We then see that this once brightly lit city, once filled with the noise of vehicles and crowds of people, is now completely deserted and immersed in silence. Not only humans, but even birds are not heard here. An eerie silence pervades everywhere. Only a few people are left alive in the world, including these 5. People are also involved. Here we see that they have spread sand from the line to their house, and these people are walking barefoot on it so that even their footsteps are not heard. Meanwhile, innocent Bo was behind Reagan. He was very happy with the rocket. Then Bo put the battery in the rocket and turned it on, due to which music started playing in the rocket. Reagan was deaf, so she did not notice the sound. But when Lee and Elin heard it, both of them got very scared. Suddenly, a terrifying monster emerged from the dense forest, running at the speed of a bullet, and began charging towards Bo. Lee quickly ran towards Bo to turn off the toy. He runs, but it's too late. He's taken Monster Bo with him. We then see a scene from a year later. Lee and his family had learned to live with this situation. Lee had set up a research room in his house, where he had gathered complete information about the monster. Here we learn that the terrifying monster could detect even the faintest sound from several kilometers away. The good thing was that the monster was completely blind, but its hearing was so sharp that it could sense even the slightest vibration in the air and the faintest sound. If a human spoke loudly, it would be able to hear it. These monsters, sensing even a breath, would rush towards the person at lightning speed, killing them in seconds. Furthermore, their skin was stronger than iron, protecting them from bullets and any other weapon. In fact, a year ago, these monsters arrived on Earth via a meteoroid from space. These monsters were so fast that they spread across the Earth in no time, wiping out almost all humankind. There was only one way to escape these monsters, and that was to remain completely silent. Lee and his family knew this secret. He had ensured complete security for himself. Lee had installed CCTV cameras all around his house to alert him to any monsters approaching. He had also placed special markings on the stairs and pathways to prevent the creatures from hearing his footsteps. He had also built an underground bunker in his house where he conducted research on these monsters. He had also discovered that there were 3 monsters in the area. Now, Lee was trying to learn about their weaknesses. Simultaneously, he was sending help signals worldwide via radio. But so far, he hadn't heard from anyone. Contact was lost. Here, we learn that Elin is pregnant and will soon give birth. Since the baby will cry upon birth, they have built a soundproof box for their unborn child so that whenever it cries, they can place an oxygen mask over its mouth and hide it in the box, preventing the monster from hearing it. In this difficult situation, it was crucial to be prepared to escape the monster. However, Lee's eldest daughter, Regine, is deaf, and this could prove to be a major problem for her. Therefore, Lee is determined to protect her from this. Lee was trying to overcome his shortcomings. A cochlear implant for daughter Regine Lee builds an amplifier, and Lee gives it to Reagan. However, Reagan is unhappy with the amplifier, fearing that it won't work as usual, as Lee had already built several amplifiers for his daughter. So, Reagan initially drops the amplifier. However, when she tests it, it works. Hearing the sounds of the outside world, she begins to cry with joy, and Reagan also remembers her younger brother. Reagan still blames herself for her brother's death. She pauses. It seems that if she hadn't given her brother a toy rocket that day, he would still be alive. Reagan wants to prove herself by helping her father with his work. So she sets off towards her father's underground bunker. But then his father stops him and refuses to let him go inside. Because of Reagan's mistake of giving his younger brother a toy rocket a year ago, he no longer trusts him at all. He fears that the underground bunker contains microphones, radios, and other equipment. If Regan accidentally touches anything that produces sound, he will be able to hear it. If you create, our lives could be in danger. The next day, Lee is going fishing at the river with his son, Marcus. Reagan wants to go with them. Reagan begs Lee to take her with him, but Lee refuses. He tells Reagan that her mother is home alone, so she should take care of her. Lee then leaves with Marcus for the river. This deeply offends Reagan, and she becomes angry. She feels that her father doesn't love her, so she packs her bags and leaves home, heading straight to that place, where her brother was killed by the monster. She lies down beside her brother's grave and cries, and it's there that Reagan falls asleep. Meanwhile, Elin was home alone. A little while later, she was carrying laundry from the basement into a sack. Suddenly, a nail on the stairs got stuck in the sack and straightened. The sharp nail was right where she had stepped, but Elin couldn't see it. Meanwhile, Lee and Marcus were fishing. A little while later, Lee brings his son Marcus to a waterfall and tells him that he can talk there because the water reflects his voice. Into it will hide, and your voice will be that monster. She won't be able to reach him. Now you can talk openly. They both sit near the waterfall and start talking. Marcus asks if he holds Reagan responsible for Bo's death, to which Lee replies that no one was at fault for what happened to Bo. But Marcus tells Lee that Reagan still blames herself for Bo's death. So you should tell Reagan that it wasn't your fault that day. Meanwhile, Ellen is holding a picture of her dead son and shedding tears in his memory. Suddenly she goes into labor, that is, her delivery. The time had come. That photo frame in hand, she hurried down the stairs, but in her haste, her foot caught on a sharp nail. Aylin screamed in pain, but didn't utter a word. However, her son's photo frame slipped from her hand, falling to the ground with a loud noise and shattering. Evelyn somehow managed to pull her foot free from the nail. The pain was so intense that her face turned completely red, but she controlled herself, refraining from uttering a sigh, knowing that making a sound would invite her own death. She limped downstairs and turned on the light switch. She does this, causing a red light to come on outside. She started to return back upstairs, but then she saw something that made his breath catch in his throat. In fact, the monster had reached her house. The monster had heard the sound of the photo frame falling from Elon's hand. Trembling with fear, Avon hid behind the wall. Meanwhile, Lee and Marcus were returning home from fishing. They saw red lights flashing around the house from a distance. Lee realized Elon was in danger. He immediately ran towards the house. Meanwhile, Elin, hiding in the basement, was trembling with fear, and the monster was stalking her in every corner of the house. He was looking for it when he found Elin in the basement. She found a timer. Elin acted smartly, setting the timer for a few seconds, placing it in a corner, and quickly hid in another corner. Meanwhile, the monster sensed movement and slowly began moving toward the spot. It was very close to Elin. Elin was experiencing labor pains, and she was afraid of the monster. But Elin controlled herself completely and sat quietly. Just then, the timer alarm went off, and upon hearing it, She was stunned. That monster quickly ran in that direction. Seizing the opportunity, she came out of the underground basement. But just as she was about to exit through the main door, she saw another monster roaming around outside the house. So Elin hid against the wall. Meanwhile, Lee was watching this from a distance with Marcus. Lee realized that if he went inside the house to save his wife, he might lose both of us instead of saving her. This monster's body was so strong that it would be impossible to kill it with a gun. So, he set to work on a plan he had already made. Lee quickly gave Marcus a flashlight and told him to quickly fire the flare rocket they had made at a place far from home had already been set up there. Marcus quickly ran towards the rocket. Meanwhile, Elin ran to the bathtub on the upper floor. She was in immense pain. She couldn't hold the baby any longer. She was just about to give birth when the monster, hearing her sobs, came closer to the bathroom. Elin knew it was impossible to survive. Just then, Marcus launched the rockets, sending flares into the sky with a loud noise. Hearing this, the monster left Elin there and quickly ran towards the sound. At that very moment, Elin, suppressing her pain, screamed loudly, whose voice was drowned in the noise of the rockets. Reagan sees the noise and lights of the rockets from a distance and heads for the house. A short while later, Lee enters the house with a gun. He sees bloody footprints on the stairs. He follows the footprints to the bathroom. Once there, he sees the tub red with blood. He realizes Elin has also fallen victim to the monster. He sits there, shedding tears. But then someone places a hand on the shower glass. It's none other than Elin. Even in this difficult situation, Elin has kept herself safe. Elin gave birth to a son. Lee's eyes widened in surprise upon finding him alive. Before the baby could hear the cry, Lee quickly carried Elin and the baby into the underground room where he had built a soundproof box for the baby in the basement. But before he could enter the basement, the baby began crying. Hearing this, the monster began to approach them rapidly. Lee quickly entered the underground room and covered the door with a thick mattress. He immediately placed an oxygen mask on the child's mouth and sealed him in a box, muffling his cries. Only then did they both breathe a sigh of relief. Here Lee tells his wife Aylin that I have come to know the weakness of these creatures. Now, I'm going to create a tool for them that will prevent these creatures from harming us. Meanwhile, Regan was returning home. She spotted a light burning in the fields. Regan quickly approached the light, unaware that a monster had been following her footsteps. As the monster approached, a sharp, high-frequency sound suddenly began to emanate from Regan's hearing aid. This sharp sound caused the monster to writhe in pain, as if piercing its ears like needles. Yes, the monster couldn't tolerate this noise for long and quickly fled. The sound was also irritating Regan's ears, but as soon as the monster fled, the pain in her ears stopped. But Regine couldn't understand why her hearing aids did this. She ignored it and reached for the light. Then she realized it was a flashlight. As Regan went to pick it up, someone suddenly grabbed her hand. It was none other than Marcus, who had been hiding there, trembling with fear. Seeing his sister, Marcus's nervousness subsided. He told Regan, "I'm going to go into the bushes. I was secretly watching you." That monster was also following behind. But I don't know why. As soon as it came close to you, it suddenly ran away. Hearing this, Regan becomes very scared because she didn't even know that the monster was following her. Meanwhile, Elin is worried about her children. She tells Lee, "I'm afraid that monster might have eaten my children. You should quickly find my children." So, Lee puts his wife and child to sleep in the underground room and comes out. At first, he starts searching everywhere for danger, but now the monster has also left. But it has destroyed the entire house. A water pipe had broken, causing water to flow directly into the underground room. Lee, however, ignored this and set off into the fields to find his children. Meanwhile, Marcus and Reagan, hiding atop a grain tank, set a fire, hoping to draw their father to the scene. Lee also began searching for his children. After a while, the sound of rushing water woke Elin. He saw that the entire basement was filled with water, flowing down like a waterfall. Just then, Elin spotted his child's box. The box was open, but there was no sound from the baby. As Elin approached the box, she saw a monster right next to it. Seeing it, Evelyn panicked. She thought the monster had eaten her baby because she could see the box, but it was far away. She couldn't see inside to see if the baby was still alive or had been eaten, so she slowly moved toward the box. Just then, the monster also went into the water. But when Elin reached the box, she saw that her baby was safe and sound. Luckily, the baby, he did not make a sound, which cost him his life. She had survived. She stood quietly in a corner with her child. But the monster, like death, loomed over Ellen. If the child let out even the slightest cry, their death was certain. Meanwhile, Reagan and Marcus were tired of waiting for their father. Reagan felt certain that his father wouldn't come to save them. Now she wanted to go home alone, but Marcus had complete faith in his father. Seeing his sister leaving, Marcus tried to stop her, but as he moved to stop her, the grain tank door opened, and he was caught in the act. Falls in. While falling, Marcus' a loud noise escapes her mouth. Hearing it, the monster, who had been searching for Elin in the house, immediately runs after her. Elin was saved, but Marcus's life was now in danger. The grain tank was like a swamp trapped inside. The more Marcus struggled to get out, the more he sank deeper into it. Reagan broke the tank's door, threw him into the grain, and jumped into it herself. Just as Marcus was about to drown, Reagan grabbed him and pulled him out, and they both sat on top of the door, saving their lives. She leaves, but the monster has heard their movements. So the monster quickly moves through the field towards the tank. Seeing the monster quickly moving towards the tank, Lee realizes that both his children are near the grain tank. Reagan had saved Marcus's life, but it was of no use because after all the commotion, the shadow of death was rapidly approaching them. The next moment, the monster also jumped inside the tank. As he moved forward to kill them, a sharp sound once again came from Reagan's hearing aid. This sound was very painful for the monster, so he leaves without killing them. Reagan and Marcus narrowly escape death and escape the tank. Lee has also come looking for them. He is overjoyed to see his children safe and sound. Meanwhile, Elin is watching all this from the CCTV camera. Then Lee realizes that the monster is still around. He immediately sends the children towards the car in front and picks up an axe and starts looking around. But the creature is right on top of him. As soon as Lee looks back, the monster hits him with its claws and throws him away. Seeing Lee in distress, Marcus calls out to him. Hearing the call, the monster realizes Marcus's location and begins moving towards Marcus and Reagan. But then, once again, frequencies began to emanate from Reagan's hearing aid. The sound was irritating even to Reagan. So, Reagan turned off his hearing aid. But this was his biggest mistake. The frequencies emitted by this device were the very frequencies that the monster was weak to, and it was intolerant of all. But by turning off the device, Reagan unknowingly invited his own death. The next moment, the monster pounced on the car and tried to reach Marcus. He tried. Meanwhile, Lee regained consciousness. Seeing his children in danger, he realized he could never kill the monster by fighting it. So, he saw only one way out. He gestured to Reagan. "I love you very much. I never blamed you for Bo's death, and nothing can happen to you while I'm here." Lee then began to scream. Hearing this, he ran towards Monster, and in one stroke, it was torn to pieces. Reagan is deeply saddened by the death of her father, who previously believed he did not love her. But now, she realized that she was wrong. After killing Lee, the monster leaves. Meanwhile, Elin is watching all this through CCTV when Reagan starts the car and arrives home with her brother. Seeing her children safe, Elin hugs them. Then Elin sees the monster coming towards them once again, after which they quickly go inside the house, where Marcus and Reagan see their younger brother. Reagan sees how hard her father was working for her cochlear implant. Now she starts missing her father very much. After some time, she entered their house. Ellen stood in front of him, gun pointed. Ellen had a gun, but she knew her bullets couldn't penetrate the monster's thick hide, so they saw their deaths before their eyes. But as the monster moved forward to kill them, Reagan suddenly started experiencing pain in her ears. But on the other hand, she noticed that the monster also suddenly started writhing in pain. That is, as soon as Reagan's ears started hurting, the monster also started feeling pain many times more than her. Reagan understands that the hearing aid, which her father had made, had something to do with this monster. There's a connection. Then Reagan stumbled upon her father's research, which revealed that the high-pitched frequencies emitted by her hearing aids were the monster's weakness. Reagan realized that whenever the monster came near her, her ears would hurt, and the monster would flee before it could kill her. Reagan quickly increased the power of her cochlear implant. The resulting high-frequency sound caused the monster to suddenly writhe in pain. It felt as if needles were piercing its entire body. Reagan's mother also understood this. It's believed that all this is due to the ear implant, but increasing the power causes Reagan's ears to become more painful. So, Reagan wisely attaches the hearing aid to a microphone, increasing the frequency of the sound waves. The monster is in excruciating pain, and its skull armor begins to open automatically. As soon as the armor opens, its face becomes visible. Elin fires a short gun directly into its mouth, causing its skull to burst like a balloon, ultimately killing the monster. However, the danger is averted. There was no gunshot. People in the area heard the sound of gunfire. The other two monsters present also began to approach them. But now Elin and Reagan had discovered their weakness, so Reagan turned the microphone up to full volume, and Elin prepared to kill those monsters. That concludes the story.
If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to our channel and like it. And if you'd like a second part of this movie, please leave a comment below saying Part 2.